Hello and welcome back to a new video here on the Lötwig Fusel channel, where we are going to continue on our game engine. Now in the last video I already teased what we're going to do today. We're going to remove that code block here because we don't want to care about that. That's something that we don't really care. What we want to have and write games, not to write all of that control logic that we are currently doing. So let's dive directly in it and start with it. Of course, we're going to put it into Engine Core because it's independent features, and what I'm going to call this one is I'm just going to call something game base.h. So this is now the base for a game, and what the game base is basically that. So what we want to care about more or less is just the engine context, and then we're just going to have a namespace engine, and then we're gonna have a class game base. Okay, so this is now basically our basic game. Okay, let's do it like this. And what we want to do is we want to have a constructor that shall set up everything that we need. Then we're going to have a destructor that should destroy everything after a successful run. And then what we're going to have is a void run, or maybe let's say an int run. And this run will basically completely mimic our main. So int argc char pointer argv. This is normally how your application looks, and what I want to do is I want to basically mimic that function. And since I know that at some point we're actually going to move to also supporting white Windows applications, I'm actually going to make another private function, and I'm just going to call this one here run, or maybe we can also just make it public, right? We can just make a run like that. That's very, very simple. And we could just call them rounds. So in case we have some arguments, we will parse them, which we currently will not. Spoiler alert. And then at some point, we're going to go for that. So run is going to be our main run function. And then basically what we want to do here in the one with arguments, we're going to put a to-do block in here. To-do. Parse arguments, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to return run, and I'm going to run without arguments, and normally they should be passed and stored somewhere which can be later accessed in the normal run function. If we're going to have a different main function for like Windows or something, then we can implement them here as well, and we can utilize the same class. Okay, so let's maybe add some docs here. Implements the base for a game. That's it. And actually, as I already told you, this is going to be in public engine I layer, because it's going to be the game layer. And what I will just do is I just want to implement a virtual method, and it's the update method. And I do just want to return true here. I know that's in here, but let's remove it. And by default, the game will just update with true. But it's to be implemented and overwritten if the game wants it, if it wants to actually know what happens during update. Okay, so let's maybe also add the bodies for these quickly. There we go. And that's it. So now what do we now put into the class here? So from main we have our engine init. And that's actually something that we want to do there as well. So engine init, this is something that the game base shall now do. Same goes for engine shutdown. This is also what the base is now doing. It's initializing the engine, and it's going to shut down the engine automatically. Okay, so now we just need to feed our run, and basically what our run shall do is more or less this. It's actually not completely true because, for example, that layer attach, this is actually something that we want to even do further at the init. Engine get dot layer stack attach layer dereference this. Or actually, can we just return this? Okay, so std shared from this. There is something that allows me this, but I'm not sure how this is utilized. Not sure where this actually lies. Memory. Let's quickly check. Is that working with just memory? No, it is not. Std shared from this. This is something that works. Enable shared from this. I think it's a class that we need to implement. I need to implement this class so that we can run the shared from this function. And this is something that many people will not like, and I personally say she should avoid this as well. std enable shared from this game base. That's something that I would really not encourage doing, multiple inheritance. But I think for utilization classes it's fine. But it's really something you need to be really careful about. I'm not sure what this class is doing, actually. I think it is somehow allowing to make pointers. So it's not really, I think, doing a lot of payload. I'm not even sure if it's actually consuming 16 bytes. So like 2 pointers or something. It's okay, I think. It's, yeah, really, I don't really like it to do things like that, but I think for this one we will need it. Okay, so runs the game without or already parsed arguments. Okay, returns application return code, and then we're going to here have run the application for normal C++ application arguments. cpp argc and cpp argv returns the application return code. So that's simple. Now the only thing left to do is actually implementing that. Currently you can see this, I'm running it just like that, that's okay. And then we're just going to return 0. Now one thing that I want to check, so let's call this one bool should exit false, not close requested, so let's call this one while not should exit, window update, and for now what I'm going to do is should exit equals not close requested, so soon this is close requested. No, if it's true it should exit, right? Should exit, and it's going to go to true. And I want to actually have this one to be or equal. You're going to see why. Because as soon as this is true I just want to keep it true. So or equal here as well, and then not update layers. So if it fails, it sets should exit to true. So this basically means that should exit will go to true as soon as one of these yeah, kind of like arguments is matched. So one of these conditions is matched, and then it will go to true. Okay, so now we have our game base. Now we just need to utilize our game base, and we're going to do that by implementing our own game. So engine context, and what I'm going to now do is gamebase.h. So now we have our game base and our context, and actually we can just include our game base and everything is good. And then basically is I'm going to call this one only empty game, and this is a public engine game base. And you can see that it directly works by exchanging that. And then what I'm going to do is empty game.run argv. You can do it as simply as that. Empty game, construct it on the fly, and then run it. And now if we should run it, it should still work the same. It does not work. Why does it not work? Okay, interesting. Throw bad weak pointer. I think the problem is maybe because how we created that. Yeah, exactly. This is now a problem because this is not a shared pointer. I think this needs to be a shared pointer that we can even run that. Okay, so let's make a helper function. In engine template type name t, type name equals std enable if t. And we're going to enable this if std is base of v, so the base is going to be game base and this is going to be t. And then I'm going to call this one int run game, and we do want to have arguments, so let's make it some arguments in here. let's call this one args in here. And what we want to do is we want to return std make shared. We want to make shared the type that we have, and then we want to call run on here, and we're gonna do std forward with args and args in here to pass them forward. So that's basically how we want to do that, and I think this should solve it. We can just now basically say an engine run game empty game, and we can return that, and this should now allow us to run the game. Let's see. It's still having an issue. Why is it still having an issue? Am I missing how that works? Or can I not do this during construction? I think it can be that I cannot do this during construction. Let's see. Yeah, I cannot do this during construction. Was the shared pointer then even necessary? Maybe quickly try it without. Let's try it like this. Yeah, it's still a problem, I think. So yeah. It needs to be a shared pointer. This is some of the most magic code lines. No, but C++ magic, by the way. That's just what it is. This one, we don't need this. Type of arguments of the game's run function. Arguments values of the run function, and T is going to be type of the game. This one is creates and runs a game. Just as simple as that, and what it returns is the game's return code. So now we have GameBase, and GameBase can now properly run the game. So if I now go back into my game, you can now see that it's now a bit more straightforward. I mean, this one is still looking a bit interesting. I think we can even make this one even more easy. I can make a macro for that. Hashtag define engine define game type, and what I basically then want to do is I want to automatically emit that function call here. Can just go quickly like that, and then use the type in here, so this can now basically define the game. Maybe we should call this a bit different. Maybe let's not call it define game class, so that we are basically defining the class of the game, and by defining the class of the game, it's basically emitting the main function, magically emitting the main function. I'm a fan of this kind of like code because it just reads quite simple. And what I most of the time even like is I even like to go further with that. Now we have a main, and additionally to the main, I want to have my empty game.h. So this is now actually defining my game, because the game could be quite more complex. Then in here I would just include the empty game. And then in here I would basically define my game class. Can see that in main.c pp it still works, but what I can now do is, since this is now a proper class, is I can go in here and move this to a source file, and now I can basically have a different implementation of my main and the game and the engine, and everything is nicely segregated. Simple empty game to demonstrate the engine's use case. Okay. So very simple like that, and then you have a main. The main is streamlined. You could even generate the main here. You could put this everywhere else, but I personally have tended to just do it like this. To just have it in here in a main file that's more or less just including the game and saying, hey, this is the main game. And everything else is then handled by the engine side and the macros. And if you would change to a Win main or something, this could be purely done with a macro. All the include magic to decide which main function to generate, and all of that can be all abstracted away and automatically deduced on what kind of build you are doing, which is the whole purpose of that. And if you change the build type, the only thing that really changes is the main file, but not everything in here. So this is all nice and consistent. Yeah, and then we can go in here and do our engine-related drawings, or game-related drawings, which currently for the IMGUI demo would be a really good application. So if I want to see a bit on how to play with IMGUI, because I'm writing a game and I want to do a custom either in-game tool or in-editor tool, I can just in my game just quickly implement the demo window and go in here and change a bit on how it works. So that's the whole idea. I can go in here and I can easily play around. And this is the game and everything is cool. Okay, so I think that's quite good. Maybe one thing that I want to add is I want to add the way on how we do our layer stack, because currently they are not ordered, and I think I want to quickly implement layer ordering. Okay, so how are we going to tackle the ordering? I think I do just want to give a layer a priority. I'm not sure how I want to do it. If I just want to have a layer base, that's going to be the superclass of the layer interface. Normally what we do is we would completely rename it. Currently it's called iLayer, and what I want to do maybe is I want to now rename that to basic layer and hope that it doesn't break anything. So it will break definitely, because I think it cannot currently adjust the includes. I just need to make sure that I change every occurrence, but I think, yeah, not even too many. Just by naming it now basic layer it should work. No, does not. There is another one. Okay. Still a problem. Class undefined. It did not populate through everywhere. Interesting. Okay, there we go. Now it's called basic layer instead of iLayer, and because it's now a basic layer, I can now actually add some implementations to it. And actually what I want to do is I want to implement the priorities. So I'm going to have a int get layer priority. That's a function that I want to have. And I also want to have a void set layer priority. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, since it's now a basic layer, I'm going to have the priority storage. So that's an inline. We do not need a CPP for that one. And I think I also want to inline this one. So I don't need like an extra source file, but it's more than like an interface. So yeah. Okay, so let's now include it, and let's include the int the priority. By default, the priority will be 0. Okay, so I just now go in and implement all of the bit of the boilerplate code in here. Okay, layers priority, and then what I also want to do is returns int. Okay, that's the layers priority. And what we should do, or should be able to do, is I think we should be able to put them now not in a vector but in an ordered list. I'm not sure, can we? Unordered, I think is a list. Is a list ordered? I'm not sure. Let's quickly find out. std C++ ordered list. So how can I get a sorted container? I'm not sure. Sorted using std less. stdz, stdmap, and multiz. So what we want to implement is a z, I think. Yeah, sure. Then let's make this a set. Should be that header. Is it? Nobody knows. An stdz of shared pointers of layers. Okay, I think this is now a bit of a problem because we are now basically having shared pointers and we cannot. Okay, I think we have a bit of a problem with the set, but I think we can add a less function. There's normally this PR, which is currently equal to less key, so less of the key type. And I think we can add a custom class or struct that does the sorting. I'm not sure if this is a function that we can provide. Let's find this out. This should be documented in the documentator. This is the comparator, which is std_less, the comparator. So what is the comparator? Can I find any more information on that one? Sorting is done using the key comparison function comparer. Okay, so compare is a set of requirements. The return value of the function call operation applied to an object of a type blah. So the function is, I think we can just try this out quickly. So we need to, the end of the story is we need to custom compare. Let's make this a private one. Let's make this a static bool. And let's call this one is, let's call this one compare function. And this one now needs to take const and then right hand side. So we need to have const left hand side and right hand side, and that's basically how our compare function shall work. So now what I want to do is I want to return a simple function in here, but we cannot currently, but we should be able to, I think, just put on the compare function in here. Not sure, or does it need to be public? A type specifier. Should be a type specifier. Or what is std_less? Is that a struct? It could be that std_less is actually a struct. Defined in header functional struct less. Okay, this is exactly what it is. I think it's a struct which has the execute operator defined. So we actually need to make this a struct. And call this one compare struct. And then inside of the compare struct, okay, something like that. And then we would have a bool operator, something like that. Then let's maybe put them in here like this. Then we would have the operator, and I think this is how it works. std_less of int. What is std_less of int doing? Let's just peek inside, and it has exactly the ty left and right, and it does like things like left smaller than right, exactly. And that's what we want to do. Is we want to return LHS pointer in direction get layer priority. And then we want to do like the less function, RHS, get layer priority. So that's basically what we want. And now that we have these custom compare function, the set should, I think, in theory, work. So struct for comparing layers priorities. So in the end, basically, let's see how this goes. So a higher priority is for me further in the list. So let's now see if this would work directly out of the box. For that I need to do a bit more magic. So we are a layer, so set layer. Oh, why my game base is a layer? Let's see, why can I not run my function? I should be able to. I am. So let's just now make the game like the most least priority. Or actually, is it? Isn't the game like the one that shall run last, so have a higher priority? Or is a higher priority is like further in the list and we start earlier? So how should it work? How is the priority defined of a layer? If it's a higher priority, I think it means that it needs to run earlier. The highest priority runs first. Yeah, I mean, maybe priority is not the right name. Let's not call it priority. Let's actually call it index. Get layer index and set layer index. And then the index, it's a bit more defining what it is. So index 0 means first, and infinite means last. So that's the idea. So that's the layer's index. Index as int. Now this of course has side effects if we're doing that. Get layer index. Get layer index here. Okay. I think pushback doesn't work. I think it should now be called in place. And that's it. Okay. And now let's just see how this works. So the game base set layer index, and now the game is quite high, so let's make it 1000 because the game is kind of like the one that's completely on top. Let's just see first if it compiles. Probably some issues somewhere that I was not aware of. Expression having type would lose some const volatile qualifiers in order to that could be, I'm not sure what's this issue, what the issue is telling me. But what I could think of, what it could potentially be, so this one is not static. Is that a problem? No, because it's functional. Non-static member. Sure, it's like instantiating that, but what is the problem? What is your problem? What is your problem? Expression type const compare struct would lose some const volatile qualifiers in order to call. Const kty const kty predicate no except. So how are they doing that in std-less for like int? How are they doing it? std-less, let's see. Const expression bool operator. And then the const here. I think the const here is what we are missing. I think the const expression is not really required, but the const here is, I think, maybe the thing that we are missing. Yeah, exactly. Now you can see it does work again. But I do not just want to see how it works. What I want to do is, let's maybe go in the update layers or something, and let's just make sure the swans are set it up correctly. Okay. And let's quickly see on this how the layers work. I don't just want to have one. I mean that Hutch layer. I didn't want it to go there. I want to actually go here. let's see, how are we building up? So we are starting with empty game pointer ImGUI, empty game pointer game base. So 1000 is later in the list, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so this works. However, as you might have already seen, we have a lot of issues here that our shutdown is not working the way it should do. And the problem is that the layer stack manager is cleaned up too late. So what we want to actually do is a few things. First of all, how it works with the destruction is not right. When it shall destruct and when there shall be layers in it, they shall be removed in a way that is controllable, so that on detach is called. And what I also want to have is I want to have clear layers, the clear layers function, which will basically detach all layers. So that's the whole idea. So all layers shall be detached when this function is called. So basically what I want to do is what I want to do is while mlayers count, or actually can I not check for empty? Yeah, I can check for empty. While it's not empty, basically what I'm going to say is mlayers, I think we can do a position 0. No? Begin, let's do it like that and say begin dot get dot on detach. So I'm just quickly calling the detach function, and then layers arrays layers begin. So just simply like that to remove all the layers and call all the functions. And then what we basically want to do is want to call clear layers here. And then we want to call clear layers in a defined way. So the engine context before we do the OS shutdown. Basically what I want to do is I want to go to my layer stack, and what I want to do is I want to clear all layers so that they no longer have a reference and that the normal shutdown procedure can continue. And this should solve the issues. Yeah, we have no more informations here. So what happened is, since we had a shared pointer, it was still like holding the references to our DirectX 12 stuff and our rendering stuff. And yeah, by changing it like that, we basically made sure that before we're going to do any like engine related shutdowns, the layer stack is more like erased. It's no longer holding references to the layers. The layers themselves might still exist, but it's no longer holding references to them, which makes it just a bit easier for us to handle. Yeah, and now what we can do is we can use all the layer indices from 0 to 1000 to properly organize how it works. Speaking about properly organizing the ImGUI layer, actually I think it's a bit misplaced, so let's maybe do something like auto reference ctx equals get, so that we have our ctx here. I don't know, I just like it a bit more to reference directly what we are dealing with. And what I want to do is I'm going to set the layer index of the ImGUI to be to, let's say, 100 or something. The game is at 1000, so maybe we want to put this to 900 so that we have a bit of space in between for the numbers. They're a bit over optimistic big, so I think 100, let's maybe say something like 90. Maybe something like 100, it's a bit more what it is. Now for now it's still going to be the same way, but it's going to be really interesting when we're actually getting into drawing more layers than just one, to just make sure that all of that is handled properly. Now the nice thing is that logic in drawing is also separated, so the logic can also interact with other layers, while the drawing is then, yeah, like deferred. Okay, so this is already quite far now, I think. And I think actually in the next video what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of a repository cleanup, because I hate the build system. I really hate the build system, and I want to just make this a bit better. So yeah, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a nice day. Bye.